What's up, y'all? This is Iskosi Umfundisi. I'm back at it once again. The other day I dropped a video and it was about Africans here in Americas, you know what I'm saying? Because the scholarship to me is kind of bogus. So I'm just using black scholars to prove the point that, what this aboriginal stuff is and what is not, and whoop-de-whoop and things of that nature and what happened. So this is what I'm just saying on the issue. Right now I'm just using black scholars. The other day was John G. Jackson, you know what I'm saying? Today is Harold G. Lawrence, who was with the NAACP. Cold historian, you know what I'm saying? His work was cited a couple times, cited a lot, you know what I'm saying, by different people and stuff like that. So the titles of this is called African Explorers in the New World by the aforementioned Harold G. Lawrence. So let me go ahead and, when assessing the cultures of early Africa, many historians have sought the convenient means to discredit the various techniques that black people of that continent change the confine of the slave trade justifications and colonial ideologies and fostering such words as primitive, savage, heathen, childlike, inhumane. These writers were limited from the beginning and failed too often to give praise to black African, just praises of his accomplishments and just praises for his accomplishments. On the contrary, the trend was to detract from the rather than to add to what was already known. As a result, where Africa exhibits signs of greatness, steps were taken immediately to stress that the responsible people were not Negroes, rarely Negroes, instead Hamites, Arabs, Arcasian whites, Semites, Hindus, Muslims, or some other name that avoided the apparent qualities of black skin and woolly hair. On other occasions, positive facts from the African past were purposely overlooked, and the ancient manuscripts were dismissed as tall tales or simple glorifications. In short, the few observers who attempt to break this unacceptable approach and reported the facts with colorations were forced to overprove their convictions or to mention them vaguely in passing. Such has been the fate of reports of pre-Columbian African expeditions to the Americas. While this information escaped the attention and interest of many, Africans view it with a more concern. They are not so prone to overlook the facts have been treated as nonsense by others, and in respect to their point of view, which really matters. Consequently, the possibilities of early African excursions into Americas must be approached from this perspective. Transatlantic Voyages. The African voyage to the Atlantic before the era of the Christopher Columbus is no recent belief. Scholars have long speculated that the great seafaring nations would send the ships to America once existing on Africa's west coast. Details still remain scant, but those available leave little doubt that such a venture took place. This can be attributed to the fact that the more information African history has been published, and the modern archaeologists and anthropologists have deepened our awareness of the various peoples and cultures of pre-Columbian America. We can possibly state that the Mandingos of Mali and the Songhai Empire and possibly other Africans crossed the Atlantic to carry the trade in the Western Hemisphere Indians, and for further succeed in establishing colonies throughout the Americas. Who in the 13th century, Mali, the earliest of these two great empires, built on the ruins of ancient Ghana, rose to become the leading nations in the world. Its importance due to the Middle Ages should not be underestimated. Under the authority of West African civilizations flourished with learning and trade. Timbuktu, a commercial center, became a popular university city on the face of the globe, entertaining noted scholars from all parts who went there to compare their manuscripts. Books on all subjects were written in both Mandingo and Arabic. Benin, Mali's second most important city, remembered, a metropolis composed of having 42,000 teachers at the close of the 12th centuries. This was an empire of black people, and remarkably that it was demonstrated that the Negroes' large capacity for governing and commence means business, reaching into the Atlantic Ocean from Senegal to Gambia tributaries. It covered an area about the size of Western Europe from Portugal to Germany, and dwarfed its contemporary, the Holy Roman Empire. There were well-kept roads, rest houses, and postal systems. Superb agricultural techniques such as crop rotation, irrigation, and soil conservation was employed, and numerous vegetable varieties were produced. The people wore fine original clothing as well as imported Egyptian fabrics, and soldiers were adorned with golden armor and weapons. The emperor was capable of mobilizing 200,000 well-equipped men to do battle. His royal court literally overflowed with pupils, readers, and poets. Ibn Anta, a Moorish traveler who traveled to Mali during the 14th century, commented on the complete security of the country and the passing beauty of its women. Through he had spent most of his life visiting most advanced civilizations of that time. He added he knew no other nation more civilized except perhaps Morocco. Mali Empire. Mali started on a role of world importance during the reign of Sakura, 1285 to 1300, the usurper, who vastly extended the domain, including much of Mauritania, and establishing diplomatic relationships with Morocco. On first contact, advanced maritime techniques and the concept of earth monarchy filtered into the fast-growing empire. This was made possible by the geographies and the astronomical theories of such Arab writer of Abu Zaid, Masin, Iris, Akbar, Abu Feta, and those in the court of Hassan al-Rashid, which whom the Moroccans were thoroughly familiar with. Both Iris and Abu Feta stressed the roundity of the earth, and the latter even spoke of voyages of the world. It was not until later years, however, that the little-known and seldom-mentioned ruler elected to make our empire-stirring information. This daring monarch, Abubakar II, 1305 to 1307, did not believe it was impossible to conquer the limits of the neighboring ocean. Employing Arab navigators who had knowledge of longitudes and latitudes, the compass, the quadrant, and the sextant, he equipped 400 ships with man, food, water, and gold, in sufficient quantity to extend their duration, and sent them sailing across the Atlantic. His captains were informed and not to return until they had discovered land or exhausted their supplies. After a long absence, a sole ship returned, and this captain informed Masu Abakari that the other ships had been caught in a violent current like a river in the middle of the ocean and been carried away by it. Irritated by his captain's failure to follow orders, the king equipped a fleet of 2,000 more ships in the same manner the first expedition, and decided to lead them personally across the perilous sea. He was certain of his return that he temporarily conferred power upon his brother Musa until he might come back to reclaim it. Thus, the people of Mali opened the way for West African trade relations with the American Indians. Masu Kansan Goga and Masu, who reportedly these exploits of his adventurous brother, eventually became master of the empire, 1307 to 1337. Nothing is known in the interest of conquering the Atlantic, but during his reign, Mali reached the apogee of his power. Aside from making new territorial conquests, Musa did much to develop the commerce and education. The wealth of Mali soon became known as far away as Egypt, and Sankara University at Timbuktu attracted the most learned professors at that time. Long before Khan Musa's death, maps of Europe carried his name and attributed the whole West Africa to his domain. Songhai Empire. In the 15th century, another powerful people emerged to challenge Mali's supremacy. These were the Songhai, who over 20 years had been the Mandingo vassals. They eventually overthrew the Mali mastery, and under the leadership of Sani Ali, 1464 to 1492, started an empire that was the claim authority over the whole entire Western African bulge. The borders of the empire stretched the approximate size of the continental United States. This was not a new empire, for a great deal of the old Mali structure remained intact. On the onset, only the ruling lineage changed. Akasa Mamari Touré, 1493 to 1529, in control of Songhai after the death of Sani Ali, and devoted his energies to strengthening the empire. He recruited a professional army of prisoners and slaves, and allowed the rest of the population to develop in commerce, farming, and other industries. Learning was encouraged and through contacts made with doctors, scientists, mathematicians, scholars throughout the Muslim world. Schools were established everywhere, and the intellectual level of the empire was raised enormously. The practice of medicine advanced to the point where doctors were performing on such operations, such as the removal of the cataracts, which is not known in Europe for another 250 years. Timbuktu and Benin remain in academic vigor, which had inherited from Mali, but the supremacy in education currents was contested by such other fast-growing metropolises such as Nano, Otala, Otipa, Bordom, Odam, Sansing, and Baradia. Besides the intellectual challenge, Timbuktu remained the academic hub for all of Africa and perhaps the entire world. Under Akasa the Great, Songhai developed a very complex system of government and administration. In fact, in some respects, its structure gave an appearance of a constitutional monarchy with democratic tendencies. Elected governors called Farsi was assigned to rule subdivisions of the empire, a chief known as Noah, was appointed to administer the promises in large cities. Economically speaking, banking and credit was well managed and controlled, and a uniform system of weights and measures established. Sales were inspected, and laws in the entire empire was codified. Atlantic voyages resumed. It's important to note here that voyages in the Atlantic were resumed or continued during the reign of Iskosi. Proof of this evidence is the fact that Columbus was informed by some man that he stopped at one of the Cape Verde Islands off the coast of Africa, that Negroes have been known to set off into the Atlantic from Guinea coast in canoes loaded with merchandise and steering it towards the west. The same Christopher Columbus was informed that the Indians of Hispaniola was arriving in the West Indies and had been able to take gold from black men who come across the sea from the south and southeast. The dates of these accounts coincide precisely at the time of Iskosi the Great, who held sway over Songhai. It also must be added that Americo Vespucci, on his voyage to Americas, witnessed these same black men out in the Atlantic returning from Africa. The 15th to 16th century, Spanish explorers and early American art, legends, and burial provide principal sources of information on what happened to these African seamen upon arrival in the Americas. In effect, the Spanish conquistador found dispersed all over the New World small tribes were in fact very considered. The small tribes were from the very first considered Negroes. The largest Negro colony, the colony means it comes from Africa, it's not from there. All right? Gotta make sure that's known. The colony means it comes from Africa, it's not from there. A colony is somewhere else in your land. That's the definition of it. You want somebody else's land. The largest Negro colony appeared to have been a permanent settlement at Durn, where Balboa saw them in 1513 and reported them at war with the neighboring Indians. This report was made before the first importation of African slaves to the Antilles and before any Spanish colonies were founded. As you see right here, you got a map of Songhai, which is bigger than the United States. You know what I'm saying? The map of Mali, which is bigger than Western map of Mali 1337, which is bigger than, you know what I'm saying, Portugal, Ghana, the Holy, which is bigger than the Holy Roman Empire. So we have bigger stuff than that. We just been knocked off from it. Other Negro colonies at the time were discovered in northern Brazil among the Cochrans, at St. Vincent in the Gulf of Mexico, where the Black Carib side resided, and at the mouth of the Oxon River in Venezuela, and among the Yamansi of Florida. These colonies, it must be stressed, were reported all by first Europeans who reached the Americas. All right? These colonies, it must be stressed, were reported by the first Europeans who reached the Americas. Even as late as 1775, Francisco Garcias was able to count upon a district of black men residing side by side with the Zunis of New Mexico and Pueblos. He related the blacks were the first inhabitant of the area, and suffice to say that the description he gave leave no doubt that they were Negroes. This observation made at the same time by French explorer La Perouse was witnessing a similar phenomenon in California. He found there a race of blacks whom he did know immediately as Ethiopians. Indian legends. American Indian legends abound with the account of black men who came from far-off lands. Aside from the report that Columbus obtained in Hispaniola, the notable tales recording the Peruvian traditions. They inform us how black men coming from the east have been able to penetrate the Andes Mountain. Furthermore, Indian traditions of Mexico and Central America indicate that Negroes were among the first occupants of that territory. Some Indians there yet claim descent from the same blacks. A contemporary anthropologist has convincingly demonstrated that several Indian tribes in this area have developed out of the early Negro stocks. These would include the Amis of Mexico, the Carajaos of Haiti, the Argos of Qatar, the Varos of Oncino, the Portuguese and the Mayas of Brazil, and the Chanchans of Darien and the Albinos of Panama. At this juncture, it must be pointed out that the localities of these Negro Indians correspond in the last detail of their whereabouts where the early African settlements were found. Let me read that again. At this juncture, it must be pointed out that these localities of these Negroid Indians correspond to the last detail with the areas where the early African settlements were found. Okay, so they still African, all right? Other descendants of the pre-Columbian Negroes were either destroyed by onslaught of Spanish conquest or eventually absorbed into the slave system. An examination of ancient Indian religion yields additional information on the condition of the early Africans in the Americas. Several Indian nations, the Maya, Aztec, and Inca, worship black gods along with their deities, and the Maya religion in particular exemplified high esteem which Negroes held. Among the black deities, Quetzalcoatl, the serpent god, and Messiah, and Ikarushim, the traitor god, and captain of war, are most revealing. Their surviving portraits show them black, woolly hair, and have been unmistakably Negro. It is important to note that the serpent god, serpent worship, is the same can be found in Mandingo land and in Egypt, which comes from Egypt. You know what I'm saying? So we won't take it all the way back to the source. And Achu was worshipped as a trader and a warrior, needed little aberrations since early Africans came to America, particularly on the trade, and on occasion had to fight for survival. Negroes and sculpture. Not only were African Negroes held in high reverence by the Indians of antiquity, they appear frequently in early American sculpture and design. Negro statues, particularly African Negroes, morphology have been discovered throughout the Americas. Five-sided granite heads, the largest, which is close to 5 tons, have been found in the Canada of Toulouse and at Veracruz, Mexico. Several little heads of Ethiopian types have been found with paintings of the Negroes have been unearthed at Tizlan. And the 12 figures of people with narrow heads, thick lips, and short woolly hair is found at Chichen Itza. Should be given special attention. They represent a standard apostle barrel, and they match identically the early descriptions of the tenants of the king quartered by the empire. Even as far north as Pecan Point, Arkansas, from Canada to La Plata, pre-Columbian pottery, sculpture, and other objects demonstrate the physiology of the silently African alignments that have been retrieved. Furthermore, burial mounds excavated in the United States have colossal fossil man comparable West African types. The cowrie shell beads found within it correspond exactly to the shell money that has often been used through Africa before colonialism. These discoveries suggest that a penetration and a dispersion of the African trader was extensively throughout Americas. Petrographic inscriptions observed in the very earliest Western Hemisphere settlements compare identically with pre-Arabic writing system of the Mandingo land and the neighboring nomads of the Sahara. Many of these inscriptions found in Native American Indian settlements have been described by some examiners as those belonging to a visitor, while the African glyphs and alphabet in all respects appear to be indigenous. Research in particular area has been retarded by the erroneous theory that Africans are incapable of developing original scripts and that they prefer oral over written means in keeping records. Those who adhere to these fallacies should be aware that Africa above the equator alone has created more writing systems than Europeans. A total of 19 have ever been adopted. So, you got to have a writing structure with that. You just can't claim I'm Aboriginal. Okay, what's your writing structure? Which is proved to be what you're saying is African and has been proven the fact that it's been African. The inquiry must be made at this point of whether some Indians did not succeed in returning to Africa with their Negro visitors. Evidence is slim in this respect, but what there is looking promising. For example, 2 modern archaeologists have combined their efforts to demonstrate that having certain people living in the Sahara possess American Indian traits. Not only they have the same name and the same methods, but tribal groups are destined with the same titles, differing only in the aspect of occasional prefix or suffix. Furthermore, the women folks in the same region in appearance can be easily taken for American Indians. Their men, however, are prone to wear more African clothing and exhibit Muslim customs. Also, we know that the nomads reside in these tents and rather than brick houses of mud, as most of their neighbors do. American Indian Negro acculturation. Cultural science occupiers have shed light across the acculturation of the African Negro and the American Indian, 2 separate people. All right. From them, we have learned that certain crops. This shows us how to do the lakes. This shows the Gulf Stream and stuff like that. Which is a good thing. That's a picture to look at. Certain crops originated in Africa, such as yam, taro, a Pacific cotton genus, was found growing in the Americas by Columbus and other Spanish explorers. Furthermore, the aliens at that time indicated that these crops were somewhat new to them. We're going to get a video onto that. The same applies to Africa in the case of maize and manahut. These two products, indigenous to Americas, were already cultivated on Africa's west coast when the Portuguese first arrived there. One examiner studying the maize in particular relates that this crop was unknown to Africa before 900 AD, and adds that its indication was due to the early Afro-Indian contacts. The date he gives may or may not be too early, but what's important was the maize was not available in Africa before the first millennium AD, and that it was widely cultivated there in the 15th century. Maize, manahut, yams, taro are unique in respect that they do not spoil and easily, therefore, have been especially suited for supplying seamen across long voyages in the Atlantic. As the Africans across the Atlantic bears little stretch in the imagination. The distance only of 1,600 miles separate Africa from South America, and several small islands along the way. Besides, the northern equatorial current starting at the mouth of the Senegal River provides a natural highway to Brazil and the West Indies. This more likely would be the same river in the middle of the ocean which Kawakari captain referred to in the related fate of his convoy. The path of this current agrees too well with the distribution of the early American Negro colonies reported by the Spaniards. Furthermore, the Gulf Stream departing from Florida provides a kind of route back to North Africa and in parts of Europe. For as Spain, the Gulf Stream divides itself in two directions, one built south to Africa and the other continuing north to the British Isles and on to Germany and Denmark. Now, a sidebar right quick. The British Isles, that was black. Parts of Germany and Denmark, that was definitely black. Matter of fact, Scandinavia, one of the blackest part of Europe on the low. No, back then, you know what I'm saying, way back when. We're going to check the history on that. You know what I'm saying? Check my thing about Black Europe. This might explain on at least 4 occasions in history, seagoing blacks have reported shipwreck on the north shore of Germany. The ships they have manned, and more importantly, have been described as canoes in the same manner as reported as by Columbus, Vespucci, and the Indians. The sparsity of such instances may further indicate the appearance of Europe was duly an originous or earnest navigation. Parts of the puzzle missing. Many parts of the puzzle of pre-Columbian African contact in the Americas are still missing, but those which are available fit too well. The present day dismiss all notions of the circumstances. The circumstances not lend to so many positive elements. If the idea that Vikings landed in North America can be accepted on thin basis of myth and few scattered artifacts, then the positions concluded that behind a larger volume of facts that West Africans during the Middle Ages sent explorers to the Americas to settle and carry on trade with the Indians. If Songhai had not been defeated by attacking Moroccan armies in 1591, its survival would have reconstructed of his own Atlantic exploits in a simple matter. Renegade Moors, under the command of Turkish Joe Pasa, ransacked Timbuktu and other intellectual centers, raising libraries and burning books. Scholars were either taken back to Morocco as captives or killed on the spot. It was easy to conceive how the records of the Atlantic expedition might have gone down in ashes. The Songhai soon afterwards fell victim to an ensuing European slave trade, which succeeded in depleting Africa over 100,000 of its healthiest, strongest, and most talented citizens. It was a simple task for these slavers to create derogatory myths based on the purpose of pillage and depopulation of Africa that remained. As a result, it has been these myths that prevented honest research and reports of African history. The publication of false theories about African origin and the ability to intensify during the colonial period, and the colonialists attempt to justify their right to govern Africa by demonstrating Africans are not capable of ruling themselves. If this has succeeded, no one will challenge the exploitation of African resources. Thus, European writers read on these concepts became interpreters and authorities of African past. The 12th century witnessed a new phenomenon now taking place in Africa. Freedom from colonization. With this new freedom, African scholars are coming forward with their own interpretation of history and its newfound foundation. Their presence of nationalisms are being built. Therefore, every effort of fresh facts related to the early African voyages of the Americas will certainly come to light. Moreover, may this someday prove itself to be a minor occurrence in a greater magnitude of African Negro achievements. So there you have it. And this goes to the list of notes and references. We're going to get that Curry G. Woodson, the African outline. We're going to do that one too. We most definitely going to do that one. It's great. You know, Curry G. Woodson, he spit game on this too. Because I don't know where some of these cats are getting their scholarship from. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of acidine and retarded. You know, I just don't get it. You know what I'm saying? That's just me personally. And I don't want to throw my hat in the ring on this stuff because to me, it's just, you know, it is what it is. But it's a lot. I'm going through black scholars. You know what I'm saying? If you look at my list, it's all black scholars. And that's what they had to say on the stuff like that. We're going to go back to Sheikh Anta Diop and go listen to what he got to say about this. But this is Harold G. Lorton. You know what I'm saying? He was with NAACP. And this he does a couple more of these too. He dropped down a couple more. You know what I'm saying? I'm about to. We can do him too. We're going to do some Arabic scholars too at that time and see what they got to say about the same thing. Because, you know, this got to be lifted skirt off of what, you know, this scholarship that's going around is very piss poor and it's very bad. I don't know who's behind that shit. You know what I'm saying? I've got an inkling who's behind that. If you read Memorandum 46, the Nesca blacks over here from the blacks in Africa. You know what I'm saying? And that's a federal plan. That's a federal plot. You know what I'm saying? So somebody got to start doing the resume on some of these cats. Because they working with the people in my mind. You know, that's just me. Anyway, Iskosi Umfundisi, you know what I'm saying? Much love. Subscribe to the channel. Peace.